If you've never heard of Innsmouth, that's okay. It's a sure sign you're living an enviable life of happy ignorance. We wouldn't have heard of it either if Mr. Farkas from the Innsmouth Oil Speculating Consortium hadn't called my dad one morning in mid-June with a job offer we were desperate enough to take. My father was a construction and demolition diver, a Seabee during the war, and he worked a lot of jobs building or clearing bridges and piers all over the New York and New Jersey coasts. He'd suit up in a heavy canvas outfit with a brass helmet to either weld steel or blow it loose with primacord, which sounds like a cool job until you realize it meant spending hours a day in the East and Hudson rivers breathing oil-rancid air down a hose. My dad hadn't been working since April. On his last job, he was forced to take on a supervisor's son as an apprentice so he could plausibly be added to the payroll. One day, the guy wandered off during my father's dive and the compressor stalled. When that happens, the rancid air stops, and all you have is what's left in your helmet to get to the surface. When Dad finally made it back up, he flung his helmet across the deck like a bowling ball and told the boss to fire his kid. Instead, it was my father he sent packing, which is how Dad was home reading Atlas Shrugged on the couch in his undershirt at 9 a.m. to receive the call from Raymond Farkas, Esquire. As Dad told it later, Mr. Farkas asked to speak to the best underwater demolitions man on the eastern seaboard, which was a smooth way to start. I remember my father waving at Mom and me to be quiet, even though we were both reading in silence on the couch. We looked up and listened to Dad's side of the conversation, which was mostly him saying, "Yes, and that's what I do, and when can I start helping you?" The seaside town of Innsmouth had fallen on hard times, Mr. Farkas told my father. Once a center for shipbuilding and fishing dating back to the 1700s, the town suffered several catastrophes soon after the turn of the century that closed its fish-packing plants and scattered its last few residents for good. But nothing dead stays dead forever, Farkas said, and hope was sprouting once again in Innsmouth. Or more accurately, it was bubbling, as in the persistent seepage of crude oil detected offshore by a geology firm. When my father got to this part of the story after the call, Mom was surprised. "Have you ever heard of oil in Massachusetts?" she asked. "No," he said, "but then the name of the company includes the word speculating, right? What's wrong with helping them speculate?" What Innsmouth wanted from my father was to move our family to their town and help install the second-hand oil drilling rig they'd towed from the coast of Venezuela to about a mile offshore. For his crucial contribution of 6 months' construction and demolition work, the investors were willing to pay all our moving expenses, both ways, if we didn't choose to stay after the project was done. A house rent-free and a salary of $30,000. "That can't be right," Mom said. "Look, it's probably to make jobs for the locals," Dad said. "If a bunch of fat cats want to throw their dough around to save the town, what's wrong with letting them save us too?" In our little Flushing apartment, we were broke and sweltering and losing our minds, which must be why my mother let her keener practical faculties give way. Thinking back on it now, though, she was the one who'd been the most restless of the three of us, going in and out of what would have been the nursery, sitting out on the fire escape with an ashtray full of butts, and winding down slowly like a clock. I didn't guess it then, but she needed a change more than any of us. As for me, I had nothing keeping me in New York either. Sure, I'd lived there all my life, but it wasn't like anybody wanted me to stick around anymore. "What about Bud? He has school here and friends," Mom said. Before I could tell her it was fine, Dad said, "You mean those come mierdas he had a tune-up on?" I'd seen Jamie and Frank a few times in Casena Park after my disastrous last scout meeting, but they'd walked away as though I should be embarrassed to show myself. I was, but they never gave me the opportunity to unembarrass myself with an apology. So when school started again, I'd have to find new friends, which I figured would be just as easy in Innsmouth as New York. Easier, maybe, with no past for the new kids to know about. "You know, I think a change would be good for all of us," I said. "See?" Dad said. "Chance of a lifetime. It's like the stars have aligned." We moved 2 weeks later at the end of June, and though we didn't peel out from the curb in Dad's Volkswagen bus, we didn't take a nostalgic turn around the park or stop for an egg cream either. While the movers went on ahead with their truck full of our things, Dad squeezed Mom's hand before pulling it uncomfortably over the shift lever, and they both smiled through the windshield as we pulled away.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.